So how will a US CBDC be similar to Bitcoin, right? And where I'm going with this is the cryptography, because according to a recent paper published by the Office of Science and Technology from the White House, they talk a lot about public key. Actually, they talk exclusively about public key cryptography as kind of a base for the kind of cryptographic, I guess, nature of a potential US CBDC, right? So CBDC, central bank digital currency, just making that analogy before, so no one's confused, right? But anyways, so PKC, public key cryptography, according to this paper, is basically where users have a public key that represents a payment address, right? And where you would receive funds, and then a private key using digital signatures, or maybe not, to spend funds. And I'll get more on that in future videos, talking specifically about digital signatures, like maybe having no digital signatures, a single one, multiple, whatever. So I'm kind of looking at the different pros and cons to that, right? And so really the whole point of these kind of cryptographic design choices is to provide some kind of secure way for storage, transmission, or usage of data in general for using a CBDC system, right? And so from this paper, I kind of talked about this a little bit before. So it seems that basically this public key cryptography is what's going to be used, right? Now, in what form, not really sure. They don't go, and what I mean by form is like, is it going to be explicit to where the end user themselves has the public keys, or I mean the private keys, is they have all the keys and so on? Or is it going to be kind of like a back end thing to where maybe it's more software based and you have kind of like a Fed app or whatever it happens to be, and then kind of, you know, all of that is built into the app. Maybe it's in like, you have like a user account or whatever it is, and from there, you know, like the Federal Reserve or other intermediaries, or however they decide to set up the kind of intermediation aspect of the CBDC system, do they have access to it? And that maybe them exclusively, or maybe both, whatever happens to be. Again, kind of more postulating at that point, because that wasn't explicitly stated in the paper, which that paper, by the way, there will be a link to the PDF version in the description below, as always, so you guys can read it for yourselves and decide for yourselves what you think and that sort of thing. So to quote explicitly from that same paper, it would be relatively easy to roll out a CBDC system with a functional and efficient PKC-based system using long-standing and well-tested code libraries, which may or may not be kind of one of their reasons for wanting to use public key cryptography, right? At least as a base. There's some discussion, and we'll get into in the next video, using zero-knowledge proofs and so on, and talk about that tomorrow, right? Hopefully. But they basically want to use this because, as they say, in their opinion, it's extensively tested in a well-used cryptographic method, right? And I say kind of in their opinion because the words they use are sort of, there are no absolutes sort of thing. That's kind of where I'm going with it. Anyways, where a lot of this goes specifically, and with the code libraries, and one of the major concerns from a cryptographic perspective for a CBDC system, at least as they state in the paper, is this sort of crypto-anically quantum relevant computers. Basically quantum computers that could possibly crack, so to say, the code for a potential US CBDC is what they're concerned about. And so what they really want is quantum resistant cryptography, and going from there. And they say basically due to these libraries that they'd basically be able to easily update once this sort of cryptography is kind of, I guess, more developed, or their standards are more, we'll say, up to par. They're kind of crafting them now, and we'll go more in depth in that in a future video, going more specifically on the quantum computing and CBDC kind of topic, so to say, right? And basically they're looking at having explicit NIST standards and so on. But again, future video. But that being said, the updates and improvements will most likely be easier to implement because there is that underlying code base. And then basically, because updating is obviously a big deal, especially when you're talking about a new system itself. So you want to be able to update and improve it as you go, talking about payment system innovation, just in general, not even specific to cryptography, But that being said, one thing to keep in mind with the public key cryptography is it seems like it's all based on the inefficacy of the computations or other algorithms that basically could poke holes in it, right? And this is why, the whole quantum resistant cryptography is wanted in this respect. It's so that they can protect against that, because the typical cryptographic methods, it seems, cannot, protect against that, right? To protect against quantum computers, right? And with all this being said, this is all kind of from that paper's point of view. It's trying to kind of reiterate it so you can kind of get it straight from the horse's mouth. And that, of course, you can also read it for yourself. As I said, link in the description to a PDF of the paper itself, right? And so that being said, I will put up the cards on the right for a video talking about adding zero knowledge proofs to public key cryptography, kind of in the realm of CBDCs, and then also to the quantum computing vid where we're talking about the actual quantum resistant cryptography and talking about the pros and cons and some other facts about that as well. So anyways, hope to see you guys in one of those.